In 1996, the news outlet PBS called Mount Everest the world's highest garbage dump. Why did they do that, and is it still true?
Well, I don't know why they did it, to be honest, but of course it was what I understand. They came and visited base camp, maybe for the first time. I think it was the first time that the world media took the time to go and visit Everest and base camp. Morning, Nuru. Yes. And okay, this is what happens up in the mountains. No, so basically, I think it was the first time world media came along and went to visit Everest and the climbing that had become more and more popular, a bit commercialized, and also, so I think it was not strange in a way that they did report, and they kind of found that, yeah, there was a lot of people on the mountain, and that means people bring a lot of, supplies, and supplies are consumed, and then they become waste, So let's say that media visit to base camp, where they found that there was lots of waste, there was a lot of people, that became the narrative for then the next 30 years. Basically every spring when the climbing season started in March, April, the world media started reporting about the actions on Everest. And that was basically always containing the garbage issue and the problems that was growing.
So it was true then that there was a lot of trash. Why was there so much trash to begin with?
Again, because when it got more popularized to climb Everest, I mean, from 1953 the first time, and let's say for almost 40 years, it was mainly climbing people, climbing expeditions. So crowding on the mountain wasn't really a major issue because it was not huge, big expeditions mostly. Some were a little bigger, but it was like a limited number of people coming to climb Everest. And they brought whatever supplies they needed, and I think they mostly tried to take out whatever they had brought up. Of course, at high points, high camps, there were probably stuff left behind. So it started accumulating. But then in the early 90s, 1990, the commercial kind of idea of commercialized expeditions on Everest started. And from 1990 to, let's say, 1996, that kind of grew exponentially. More and more climbers had companies and they started offering the opportunity for people. So the numbers grew very quickly. And I think that increased also, of course, the waste left behind. Because the more people, the more supplies, the more waste you get. I mean, it's a natural kind of thing. And that became the narrative for media. So that basically for over 30 years it's been that story, And of course there has been huge issues on the mountain. And I think in mid-1990s or end of 1990s, there were people both locally here and other expeditions coming to Everest started kind of addressing the issue. So there were cleanup efforts made. And that has been continuous. Almost every season you have some kind of expeditions who focus also on trying to remove waste. You have also very focused efforts on only cleanups with the Nepali army, sometimes Indian army joins them, and other efforts, which has also, of course, helped to clean up old stuff that has been left behind. But then alongside with that, the last 30 years, the numbers of people going for Everest has grown exponentially every year. And that, of course, puts a lot of pressure on it. So I would say the last 5-7 years, there has been a lot of improvements on the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Base camp to start with is nowadays managed by the local organization here called SPCC, Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee. They are responsible for waste handling in the whole national park, but they also are responsible in Everest Base Camp, and they coordinate with the expeditions to make sure that base camp is left after the season as clean as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are also efforts to keep cleaning up and bring back as much as possible from the higher camps.
Mm-hmm.
There's still work to be done if you want it to kind of become as good as is possible. But I think the improvements are pretty significant.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the challenge is there with all the numbers of people who come.
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was mostly really professional expeditions who tried to bring down as much as they could and basically bring down everything they brought up. As it became more commercialized, the numbers grew beyond the capacity for cleanup, so it got real bad. This is when the news stories emerged. And now in recent years, it has gotten much better because the cleanup efforts have really increased. And except these really hard to reach camps up on the mountain, you would say that Everest is much, much cleaner than it is often portrayed.
I think it definitely is less trashed
Mm-hmm.
than what is kind of pursued through the media reporting. There are still issues, so I'm not saying that the mountain is totally clean. I mean, I think that Camp 4 is proven to still have a big issue, both with old waste
Mm-hmm.
that is frozen into the ground, which is, of course, hard
Mm-hmm.
to hack out if you're. Remember, you are at 8,000 meters
8,000
altitude,
meters.
where the body is kind of struggling just to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, every effort to clean up that big area, which is a large plateau, where all tents are put up, and stuff that breaks and stuff that is left that then freezes into the ice.
Mm-hmm.
That is still definitely a big issue. And then the more, call it operational, each season handling of what waste is produced in, let's say, Camp 1, 2, and 3, which
Mm-hmm.
are all up on the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
That is still a challenge that needs to be readdressed and kind of worked on.
Okay.
But I mean, for example, they have started using drones on the mountain.
Okay.
And one use of those drones is to bring down waste from Camp 2 and Camp 1, and ultimately to bring down waste from Camp 4 and Camp 3 to Camp 2, so you can use the drones and bring it out.
Mm-hmm. I imagine that's a really significant improvement over just using humans, and it's much more efficient and safe.
Safer, definitely, because to come back down from the high camps to base camp, you have to cross through the icefall, which is the Khumbu icefall, which is a dangerous place, and you don't want to go through it more times than necessary. So especially for the guides and the porters, I mean the Sherpa guides and porters, to save them a couple of rounds going through that icefall and use drones instead is of course a huge safety measure. And it's also efficient because those drones can carry, as I know now, 30 kilo from Camp 2 down to base camp, and it only takes like 6-7 minutes.
Will they also, or are they currently used on Camp 3? I don't think they're used on Camp 4. Will they be able to be used on Camp 4, or is that so hostile even to technology that it's going to be difficult?
I don't know. I'm not a technician when it comes to drones, but I know that they can fly 30 kilo up and down to Camp 2, which is a huge, huge kind of advantage. If they can fly higher, I guess they can, but I don't know. Maybe if you go higher, their capacity to take a load diminishes very quickly. But who knows? 1-2 years from now, maybe they can fly to the summit.
I mean, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about Sagarmatha Next. Maybe first explain what the name means for those who don't know, and then what the project is and what your and the project's role in the cleanup operation is.
Okay, so Sagarmatha Next is the name of this facility where we're sitting, and Sagarmatha is Mount Everest. It's the Nepali name on the mountain. Everest has 3 names. The oldest and original name is Chomolungma, which is Tibetan and means Mother Goddess on Earth. And then Mount Everest was, of course, named after some British person in India, I don't know, 150 years ago. And then Sagarmatha is the latest addition, which I think Nepal added that name in 1960s, 70s or something. So we named it Sagarmatha Next because most people who come visiting this region, they are on their way to Everest. So Sagarmatha Next.
Okay.
When they come visit us, they're on their way up to Everest. Also, because we are involved in trying to work and support the local organization and the communities here who now tries to take another step in preserving this region from waste by implementing a sustainable waste handling system. So you could also say that Sagarmatha Next represents the future with a sustainable waste management system in place where we can preserve this place. So that's a very big, important focus for us to support those efforts. Our support is basically that we reach out. All the tourist visitors that comes here, which is, we're talking up to 80, 90,000 per year,
Wow.
who comes and do hiking or go climbing. Plus we have 5,000 local people living here. So we try to reach out to everyone. This center has a showcase of what you can actually do with waste instead of just throwing it away or burn it or whatever you try to do to get rid of it. We try to showcase through the collaboration with designers and artists. We invite artists to come here, spend a month, use waste materials and create artwork. Because if we think that if we can show everybody that an artist with a creative mind can take all kinds of garbage and waste materials, put it together and make a beautiful art piece that has a value, then maybe we can change minds and have people feel that it's important to take care of the waste. Because if you're going to bring it out for recycling, you have to take care of it. If you leave waste out in the rain, snowing, in the wind, and animals goes into landfills and push it around, it will be destroyed in short time, and then it has no value for recycling. So our way of conceptualizing that is to use artists and creative designers to show that you can actually make things and reuse waste materials, and it has a value, so it's a resource, not garbage.
Okay.
So that's our main focus. And then we have a visitor center, which is an interactive building right over here, where we have film salon, we have touch screens with all kind of information about the region, both historically, culturally, mountains, trails, changes over time. We have physical exhibits, we have virtual reality. You can climb Everest in 3 minutes. It feels very real because it's 3D, 360. So the combination is a main focus on how do we support efforts to make preservation of this region possible, so that we can keep it natural and beautiful for the future.
Yeah.
At the same time, promote the region. Yeah.
Because you mentioned that you bring artists and designers in, and they, in any way, shape, or form, take the waste you collect and make art with it. You sell that art?
Well, if somebody wants to buy it, we definitely put it up for sale, yeah.
But also it is to, well, you fundraise through that a bit.
That's one way to raise funding to support these efforts that the local organization and the locals are doing now, because they need support, both funding-wise, but also with ideas of solutions and how to go about it. So that's our role. We are not the ones making waste management. We are the ones that tries to help those who actually do it, which is
Mm-hmm.
the local organization and the local communities. They are the only ones who long term must commit and will commit to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are, call it, a supporter
You're a
to that.
supporter of the local efforts and basically try to raise awareness and money to help the locals in their capacity to create a sustainable waste development for their own region.
Exactly. So
And
we,
also to help people think differently about waste and what you can do with it, right? Because that's what you mentioned, that waste or trash doesn't have to go to a landfill or recycling, but that it can be used to make something new without being broken down first.
call it a big picture approach.
Okay.
So we try to be the supporter of these efforts
Mm-hmm.
in a way where we hopefully can inspire many, both local people as well as people coming from the whole world visiting here, that there are different ways to handle waste. I mean, around the world, not just in Nepal, around the
Mm.
world, we are still putting a lot of waste into, landfills. That means we put stuff into the earth and then we cover it up. I don't think in all cases that's a very good idea in the long term, because that is what the media talked about Everest. You make it into the highest trash dump in the world. Well, wherever you deposit, call it residues, waste materials, you're doing the same thing. Okay? And now the question is our earth that we live from and with, is it not worth more than actually polluting it by putting all that stuff into the ground? Because once we have covered it, yeah, we might forget about it, but it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It's there. So our approach is, why don't we look at all these waste materials that we humans have produced, and then we have consumed them and now they become waste? What can we alternatively do with them?
Mm.
And that's why we use creative minds like artists and designers, because they have a little different approach when they do what they do. I'm not an artist, I can't create stuff like that.
Mm.
But they have this mind that shows them that, yeah, these things that I consider garbage, they
Mm-hmm.
can see some possibility of actually creating something that might interest my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, wow, I had no clue you could do that. So that's how we try to use this concept of showcasing the transformation of waste into art and
Mm.
design souvenir products. And if we are, let's say, lucky or successful about that, then hopefully people will become inspired and say, wait a minute, even a plastic bottle cap has a value,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just throw it away.
I love that so much because it takes a problem where many people think about in kind of a limited reductionist way, in terms of oh, we have to do less or we have to get rid of it in this one way, and think, okay, there are people who have these creative capabilities and there are probably solutions to this problem that we don't know yet. So why not put creative minds to work and
Exactly.
try to use all the creative and cognitive ability we have to make something new? And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the fundamental approach, your big picture view is hopeful
Of course.
that we can make something
Optimistic,
new.
hopeful, and I wouldn't say convinced, but I'm pretty sure that if we are many who starts acting and thinking in a different way, the impacts will be very, very significant. And I mean, of course, then somebody can say, oh, but consumption we have to reduce. Yeah, well, maybe we all also has to do some reflection on what our needs really are. Are
Mm-hmm.
we always going to buy the simplest solution for taking care of whatever I wish for or my need is? I mean, for example, plastic one-time use bottles, water bottles or whatever it is. People use them everywhere, still in places where you don't need them. the water in the tap is fully potable, you can drink it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no real practical reason for having water put in a plastic bottle and then you're going to carry that around on the metro or on the bus on the way to work or to school. So we have a habit that has been incorporated in us for a very long time. So maybe we could change and say, okay, I'm going to buy a plastic bottle that I can have for 10 years because it's a refill bottle. That would be a good thing because that would maybe lower the number of single-use plastic bottles, or these, call it PT bottles, that can be recycled, but of course, unfortunately, get burned in many parts of the world and deposited and whatever. So I mean, there's a combination. Reduction where it's reasonable, but also reuse. Think in terms of reuse. It's like clothes. I mean, people buy new clothes every year. Okay? Sometimes it's driven by, I need to be, updated with fashion because this jacket is not fashionable anymore. Well, if I keep my jacket for 15 years, that of course keeps the number of jackets needed to be produced a little bit lower. So I mean, we have to combine things. Creative solutions of reusing waste materials and looking at where can we maybe change the type of material we use to make something or reduce our consumption of certain things. So I think it's a combination.
Okay, that's good to understand. Tommy, this project, right? It is a visitor center. It is an artist residency. It is basically a promotional facility. It's up on a mountain, which is quite difficult to construct. It requires quite a unique collection of skills to get this started and to set it up. It is connected to the mountains, but I imagine you need some interest or experience in sustainability, in entrepreneurship, and in just getting stuff done. What do I need to understand about you, maybe how the way you were brought up, or about your values, to understand how this place came about?
Well, I don't know. It's hard. It's sometimes difficult to talk about yourself. You have a totally different mind about yourself than maybe others have. So first of all, I'm one of 3 co-founders. So we are 3 friends who came up with the idea of trying to be a support for this region and for the organizations and the local communities when it comes to the waste management. One is a local Sherpa from Namche, so his family has a long, long history from this region, much longer than mine. I came to Nepal in 1983, so I've had a relationship with the country and this region for 40 years plus. And then it's an Indian friend. His family has a long-standing connection to Nepal through their hotel businesses and other businesses. And he also has a social development kind of interest. So he has started recycling company in Kathmandu. They have started schools. So I mean, the combination of the 3 of us is maybe a little bit unique: Indian, Sherpa, Swedish. And I think we all brought different things to the table. So this is not like one person's thing. Ideas have always been discussed between us, and we have always kind of tried to agree on everything, and it has actually worked incredibly well. Very few things have been, call it, even a big discussion. Now, my own background, well, I'm from Sweden, and what could be of any significance when it comes to making this place? I would say I grew up back in the 1960s. I'm born in the 50s. In the early 60s and mid 70s, that was my young years and teenage years. In those days, things were not always kind of in place orderly and everything was kind of set out. Your parents had to work. You were alone a lot. You had to activate yourself. I mean, me and my friends, there was no parents who came out and said, oh, you're going to do this, play this football or that, blah, blah. Yeah, they introduced us to kick a ball or in the winter to ice skate. But we basically, as kids, even when I was like 5, 6 years old, we had to activate ourselves. We went out and built tree houses, and we played Indians and cowboys. We learned to ice skate when we were 3, 4 years old, and yeah, we fell and we hit each other, and boom, and you had pain and blah blah blah. You came home crying, but it was a totally different time. When I look at the world today, the incredible safety nets, the incredible kind of parental guidance of kids, they had to drive them everywhere. My parents didn't drive me to school. I had to fucking walk to school, even if it was like half an hour walk, and had to cross a number of streets where there were cars. Okay, less cars than today. But I mean, so what I'm saying is it was a totally different era and time. So I think that may have affected us and me, that we kind of were, our minds were set on nobody else is going to do it, I do it, So I think we got a capability from that.
Do you think the overcuddling or overprotection of children now robs them of a chance to gain independence through facing adversity?
I have to be a little bit careful here politically, because let's put it this way. Yeah, in my view, I think the overprotection, the way we kind of try to make our children grow up in a certain way is systemized, it's institutionalized, it's how society has pushed everything, because society wants to make a certain, call it, structure, where everybody is going to fit in and be one part of the machine, if you call it that way. And I think that overprotection and all these safety nets do take out some creativity. I think it take out your drive to actually take steps, maybe sometimes to go outside of your comfort zone. You were always told to stay within the comfort zone. If you stay within the comfort zone, yeah, maybe you will have a safe life. You feel like, oh, it's safe, it's fine. I don't believe that, because reality always puts us in challenging situations, one way or another. Not just by going up and climb big mountains. You can be at challenges and dangers in the city also, and everywhere. So I think to a certain extent we have diminished a bit of our, call it, naturally inherited kind of capabilities to make judgments, to be able to handle reality as it presents itself. That, I think, is part of modernizing the societies in the world. And I tried not to do the same with my kids. I probably were a bit overprotective also, because you live in a certain world. I lived in a city. I was doing what most people did, career. So I probably also fell for it, but I tried. I remember I was at least trying to make myself aware of not doing it too much.
You just mentioned that at some point you were living in a city, you had a career. And was that before or after you first came to Nepal? And what made you leave that old life behind and come here?
No, I mean, I came to Nepal very early. As I said, 1983. So I was only 20, I was 24.
My age?
Yeah, so I was kind of in the beginning of, call it, career. I had already married, so I was already a married guy. I was only 20 when I married, so I started early. But my career kind of started somewhere around there, 24, 25, 26. So it kind of coincided going first time to Nepal. But I had always kind of this urge of traveling and exploring and see other places. And so that was part of me already from when I was very young. I mean, I traveled when I was 12, 13 because my parents lived abroad. And my stepfather worked in places like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran, Lebanon, Pakistan. I went to boarding school, but I went to visit them on holidays. So I kind of traveled very young, early on, to also kind of not the most usual places.
Yeah, especially back then.
Yeah, back then. And so I think that was part of me being a little bit of a explorer and wanted to kind of learn and see other things. So then my family life started, as I said. I married when I was 20. And then I also had the responsibilities, to start a career so we could have a family economy that worked and everything. So I got pretty busy, but I always tried to keep this, call it, curious mindset and explorative kind of wish alive. So I started climbing. That became a hobby. I used to do a lot of sports before, ice hockey and handball and stuff, but climbing became my kind of breathing window from family responsibility and career responsibilities and all that. So go out and rock climb to begin with, that was like, now I'm relaxed.
Your escape.
I don't have to think about all those other things. Now I have to focus on one thing, and that is don't make a mistake, don't fall. So that kind of became part of my life from, let's say, early 20s to mid 40s, 20 years. And the career kind of kept growing, and I started managing companies at a fairly young age. I think I was 29 first time.
What industry were you?
Sports industry, so you could say in different sectors of the sports industry. So I managed the Swedish Ice Hockey League. I was the director of it. I was running travel companies who sent people for football games in England and Spain and Italy and World Cups and other things, Formula One races. I worked with the Olympic Committee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a variety of things, but mostly in and around, call it sports in some way. And when I'd done that for like some 25 years, or 23, 24 years, it went well. I don't regret anything, but it was very exhausting, both physically but also mentally. And so I had my doubts after about 20, 25 years that, wow, I'm burning my light very quick. And I felt that time passed extremely quick. So I started having these internal discussions. What am I going to do with myself? Am I going to keep on doing this until I get a heart attack and boom, it's finished? Or am I going to try to do something different? But it took years of circumstances, family, wife, whatever, and your commitments to your work. It sits pretty deep-seated in you, when you've done it for a long time. So it took me several years to kind of get to the point where both circumstances, like kids grown up, have their own way now, don't need me anymore on a daily basis, and that I felt now I've come to this crossroad. I have to make a decision. If I'm going to continue to do what I've done for the last 25, 27 years, I think it's going to be tough. And then that's when I made the decision. And I had been coming to Nepal so many times because here I also kind of I wouldn't say escaped, but I put myself in a totally different situation. Here I didn't have to think about all those things back home. So this was very close to my heart, and things kind of turned out. Actually, once I made the decision, it went very fast. It only took 2 weeks from when I decided to break, leave Sweden, and go and live here. It took just about 2-3 weeks.
Did you know at that time what you were going to be doing here in Nepal? You just said, okay, I'm going to move there and then I'll figure out the rest.
Yeah, I said I'm going to move to Namche Bazaar, not just Nepal.
Oh, really?
I'm going to move to Namche Bazaar. I'm going to base myself in that village, which I had been visiting so many times and where I had so many friends. And so I kind of just decided, let's move there. I sold off everything I owned in Sweden, everything. I mean, I kept maybe 6-7 carton boxes with, stuff that I felt I can't throw it away right now. But apart from that, I got rid of everything. So I kind of tried to not have a back door, not have a summer house or have a little apartment here or something. I wanted to give myself a clean break and go and see what happens. That was basically the idea. And then I had Namche as my base, and in the beginning, I spent time, I explored some trails I hadn't gone on before up here, and kind of ran around a bit. But then after a while I started feeling like, okay, there's not that much happening. So then I started traveling. So I went from here to Japan to ski, which I had missed out on doing before because I didn't have the time. And I went to Hawaii and tried to learn surfing, and so I kind of went back and forth here and there, but always came back to Namche. But it didn't take more than like 5-6 months, and I started feeling like I got a bit bored. I felt like retiring at 50. What was it, like 56? Retiring at 56. And you start getting bored after 6 months, this is not going to turn out well, Everybody else was busy doing things around here. So that's when I again reconnected with one of my old friends here in Namche. We had been involved in a cleanup on Everest in 2010-11, so we knew about the issues, both him and me. And we had talked about after that cleanup that there needs to be another step taken. But we didn't really know what to do, how to do it, so it took time. But then, after I had moved here, that's when we started talking about it and said, why don't we sit down with the locals and the local organization and talk to them, If they have the same view about the waste as we had, that something is needed to be done, well then maybe we can start doing something together with them, And that's how it basically started.
I really love this story because, as you mentioned, people or young people are growing up more protected than ever and maybe less independent. And especially what I notice in some 20-year-olds like me is that decisions can feel very, very big and very, very final and important. And over the past 13 months, I've been traveling a lot and meeting a lot of people. And I've heard several stories like yours where people start over and basically have a completely different life after 40, 50, and 60. And I think it is super important for young people to hear this because it shows them that they can pivot, they can change even after, you said, 25 years in an industry, and then even create something as beautiful and impactful as this. So I think this is amazing. This is amazing.
You know what I would actually, I don't usually give advice because I think, I have my background, my experience, and I've done my mistakes and everything. But I think what I usually say when I meet young people who asks, what would you recommend? What is the most important when you're young and you're going to actually take charge of your life? I would say 2 things. The first thing is, try to deal with whatever fears that you are having embedded in you, because we all have fears. We can call them fear, we can call them worries or whatever. But there are things that most everyone has within them, which are limiting your possibilities, your potential, okay? So don't allow fear or worries to run your life, because that's only going to limit every option you may come across. So that's number one. And number two, don't believe that you already know everything. Because when you're young, and this is natural, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have that mindset that I'm prepared to step over comfort zones or step over obstacles, but always keep a certain humility. Be a little bit humble also, in a combination that we don't know everything. Not even when you become old as me, 66, 67, or 70 or 80, we still don't know a lot. We may have certain knowledge, but when it comes to the whole picture, we are very limited. And that shouldn't intimidate us, that should make us humble, and humble enough to also dare to go out of the comfort zone. So it's kind of like you need that balance. That's why I think Buddhism as a philosophy, not like a religion. I'm not a Buddhist by practice or anything, but I do like the philosophy. And it's all about one thing, balance. If you can balance things, then everything is going to be fine. It's when the imbalances grow and become too big. That's when the real challenges happens. And we all know it. You know, you drink too much, you have a bad hangover. Out of balance, you know. If you drink a little bit, you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to wake up next day and not have a hangover. So I mean, those are the two things, you know. Don't allow fear and worry run you. Be a bit humble and use that as a balancing with everything that happens around you.
Because only when you're humble enough to realize you don't know everything, you're open to learning new things that then gain you, or that then bring you different places.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
This is amazing. I think I hope people are going to find this useful, because people have a difficult time, especially now, dealing with uncertainty, right? And the fact that we have so many options might seem really good from the outside, but it's actually quite difficult to navigate your way through it. And having these guiding principles, I think, is very helpful.
And you know what? I think also, you know, this uncertainty that you're mentioning, and I can just guess to some part some of the things that are ongoing out in the world right now, especially, let's say, in Europe and other parts, Middle East. First of all, nothing is new. I mean, come on. Everybody should learn a little bit more history. That's my view.
Okay.
I think history has been dismissed as a subject almost. Everything is about math, physics, you know, the sciences and all this, technology, all of that. That's the main, and economy, of course. But those are the only things that are really the big important things. You take a subject like history, I start feeling that nobody reads history anymore. And if we don't understand our own background and history, how are we going to be able to understand why we are where we are right now? Because it is the whole journey of history that has led to where we are. And if we kind of, I wouldn't say dismiss, but at least distract from it, we don't really put any effort into understanding and see it, how are we going to understand why we are where we are? And that's when you don't understand where you are. I mean, it's like when you are out in nature and you get lost. You don't know where you are on the map, okay? What are you going to do?
So history, you believe, is our map for navigating the events we see, because patterns repeat, and if you study history, you tune your intuition and your pattern recognition to what is happening.
And you know, very often if you listen to debates and discussions and motivational speakers and stuff, I think you probably recognize and hear that, you know, we have to learn from our mistakes or learn from our experience, right? But if you don't know history, how are you going to learn? I mean, we kind of have, if we study a little bit of history, I mean, let's just take the last 1,000 years or 2,000 years. That's a very short time span. The Earth has been here for 5 billion years. That is so much that no brain can understand how long time that is. And we have like a 2,000-year history from Jesus and, you know, Islam's birth and whatever. If we just study that, I think everybody would start getting, wait a minute, have we kind of repeated over and over again the same things? It's just in different settings and in a different time and era, maybe with more comfort now than it was 200 years ago. But the behavior, the way we do things, is very repetitious. So I think history is absolutely crucial for our understanding that we are here because of a journey through history that has led us here. And then maybe we could also reflect on what in that historical journey were things we did that we may not want to repeat, you know? But as it is now, we almost forget what happened. Now it's like we don't even remember what happened 50 years ago.
Yeah, I think one weird feature of the internet is that most people consume only things that have been created in the last 24 hours, videos, news articles, and we rarely consume things that have been created 10, 15, 100 years ago, which then makes you, forget or makes you ignorant to the really important things that have been created while humanity made these mistakes.
And I think that unfortunately is not to our advantage. We become more dependent on our devices, on technology, and we think that technology is going to solve almost every issue that we still face and that we feel that how are we going to fix this? We think we're going to do that by just developing more technology. But what it actually does is makes us more dependent, less able ourselves. Yeah, you can say it's very easy. I can go to, you know, Google, and now you can use AI, you know, to figure out and learn everything. And then you could ask yourself, why the hell am I going to school at all if I don't need it? Everything is in here, in that device. But you know, that's not the only thing that counts when it comes to how do you going to pursue and make your life valuable, interesting, rewarding, fulfilled. It's not only about having a device where you can get the right answer all the time. It's about you in reality and what are you going to do with the days you have been given, the gift you have been given, you know, which you don't know how many days it's going to be either. Nobody knows, right? We all believe that we're going to live almost forever, but then we know there is that point somewhere where it's not going to be anymore. And then we hope that's going to be, oh, well, people live to 80, 85, 90 now. I hope I will live that long. Yeah, well, but you know, we don't have that control over it. Yeah, you can push medicines and keep eating stuff that's going to keep you for another 5 years when you're 80. But you know, is that life?
Well, if you don't make things with that time that makes the time worth it, then probably living longer isn't going to make what you have any better.
Probably not. And I mean, the really big thing I think nowadays is we live, as I remember it, and I was exactly 100% the same. In modern world and most societies, we live basically kind of jumping between past and future. We very often want to avoid being present right now. So we always plan what's going to happen next, And then we look back when we miss something or miss somebody. We think back, oh, that was so nice last summer. Oh, you remember we were on the beach, and or so we pendling between past and future most of the awake time, because the present is a little bit difficult because you can't always control what's happening right now.
Scary, yeah.
And that, if you start think about it, can even become scary or a worry, because the mind cannot control right now. I mean, if you're out skiing somewhere and suddenly an avalanche comes, that happens now.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't maybe escape it because you're right underneath it. So I think we have, because of these technological advances and the way society is working, always talking about what's next, we don't really live fully. Because when you think about what's going to be next, you're just projecting a reality that doesn't exist. It may exist tomorrow, but it doesn't exist now. The only time you live real is right now. 5 minutes ago, it's just a memory. The guys came and sat down. Yeah, I remember it. It's a memory trace. It's like a hard disk.
Mm-hmm.
But life in itself only happens right now. So and that doesn't mean that you can't make plans. It doesn't mean that you can't reflect back on past. Yeah, as we talked about before, as I said before, we need to learn from our background experience, from history. We need to learn things, because I don't see mistakes as mistakes. If I learn something from a mistake, I see it as a learning lesson, something that adds to me and to my life. So we need to reflect sometimes over history, but we can't live in it, because that's a history, it's a memory, it's not real. And same thing, I can plan my next trip, but once I've made my plans, I've booked my flights, my hotel, and all the ideas is there. Now I don't need to kind of bother so much about it. Now go back, live now, and then when we get to that point, my plan is there, I can take that trip. So that was a big thing for me to change, moving here.
Mm-hmm. So you realized that when you kind of set in when you came to Nepal, that being present, that the present is the only time that really exists, because the past is already gone, the future isn't there yet, so you can only live the present.
If you really want to live and be alive, you have to accept or surrender to the fact that it only happens right now. Everything else is a mind game, a mind that projects something that I want or wish for tomorrow or next hour or next month or next year, or the brain or the mind going back to your memories that are in your hard disk, subconscious or conscious. Those are all kind of, call it, they're not reality. They are old realities and potential realities. The only reality there is now. And for me, that was one of the big challenges when I moved here. Because, of course, I was programmed like most everybody else. I was always thinking about the next step. And I was always looking back, okay, how did we do that and why did it go wrong? Okay, I'm not going to do that now, like a pendulum. So coming here, the first thing I was forced to start dealing with myself, my mind and my way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because here, that doesn't work. Because here, time is, I usually say it's like a rubber band. You can stretch time here as long as you want, because time doesn't really exist here. People don't follow time. If I'm going to go to a meeting, the other day I was in Namche a couple of days ago, it was a meeting starting 9:30, it started 11. And I mean, where I come from, that's not like being late. That is like rude, horrible. You would have to kind of probably work for a year to restore any trust.
Yeah.
Here, it's totally normal. So I mean, basically, here you have to I had to surrender. That's where I got to. It took me a long time. I had to surrender to reality as it is. I couldn't control it with my mindset. It didn't work. It made me upset, angry, irritated, because the plumber who said he was going to come this morning never shows up. He doesn't call, he doesn't send a message. And then I find him 3 days later and he says, I'll come tomorrow. I said, but you were supposed to be here 3 days ago. You know, so living like that here would have been impossible. I would have gone crazy.
Yeah.
Could never survive here. So that was my biggest lesson, was surrender to reality. Just take it for what it is. And if the plumber don't come, fix something else that you can do. Okay? And eventually he will come. And when he comes, then it's okay. Or figure out a solution that works until he comes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Tommy, I love this. I could do this probably for much longer, but I do want to respect your time.
Yeah.
I've got two very short questions before we wrap this up. I told a friend that I was going to have a chat with you. She's an artist, and she was like, "Oh my God, I would love to come here." What are you looking for in the artists that you bring in? What does someone need to bring to the table to come here?
We are very open-minded. Any kind of artist. It's not any specific that you have to be a sculptor or a painter or whatever. We would love artists with from all different areas: photography art, installation art, sculpting, painting, whatever. The most important for us is that it's somebody who has given thought to what would a residency for a month here be consisting of. What is their ideas, how they can be a part of this, let's say, effort to communicate that waste is not just garbage. That's one part. But also, can they connect it to something else within, let's say, this region, this nature, Himalayas, or animals, or whatever. It's about a concept, to have an idea. And that can be the first part. So if somebody is interested, they should definitely send us an email. Check our website first so that they get familiar with what our vision is and mission. And then from their point of view say, okay, if I would be granted to come and be a resident artist, I have this concept idea. Now, if they have a concept idea that we like and we feel it's good timing with other residencies that we have had, because we want to have them different, we don't want them to kind of repeat itself. Then when the artist comes here, they may actually do that concept, but they may develop the concept because of what they start feeling when they see this place, when they actually are here. Or they may even add another concept. Those things are totally fine. We don't kind of interfere with the artist's creativity. But when we select artists, we do look at what their basic concept idea is. And see if we feel that is something we haven't had, it's something that is interesting, we think it goes hand in hand. That's what we're looking for.
Okay, that's perfect. And then I know we just spoke of, how important it is to be present, but I do want to ask you, what is next for Sagarmatha Next and for you, and where can people find you if they want to find out more?
So, number one, to find us is very easy. If you have our name, Sagarmatha with T-H-A, Sagarmatha Next. You can do .com, that's our website. You can go to YouTube. We have films and introduction films about us. You can go to Instagram and everywhere. So Sagarmatha Next is basically where you go. Then you'll find, hopefully, quite a lot of things, not just posted by us, but also by visitors who come here. So that's one part. And then next for Sagarmatha Next, this is now on its third, actually we are now starting on our fourth year. We've been open 3 years. This is working in many ways as we have hoped for. We are going to continue this, but we do have visions of sharing what we have learned from doing this here, because there are many other regions, even here in Nepal, who have the same challenges as Everest, because there are many mountains in this country and many popular mountains. So we are looking at replicating or supporting replication of parts of what we do here for other regions where there is an interest from the locals to actually do it. So we actually are looking into 2 or 3 different areas already, and one is probably more likely to start already beginning of next year. I mean, the starting of creating. So we have always from the start said, if this is something that works, if we can make this function and have an impact, we would of course want to share it with others, because I think sharing is maybe one of the most important things in life. Share whatever you can. I mean, share your bed, home, house, food, money, or just your friendship or your knowledge or whatever. Sharing is how we can connect and actually become a part of the whole. So, yeah.
That's exciting. I'm very much looking forward to the next project, to how this develops. Thank you so much for taking the time again for me. And, well, maybe next time I come to Nepal, we'll meet in a different place.
You never know. And thank you so much for taking the time to come up here and do this interview. And I don't know, let's see what the outcome will be. If you post it somewhere, send a link.
I will.
We try at least to document as much as possible.
Yeah. I will, definitely.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Wonderful.